Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Investigative Journal YouTube channel. I'm your host, Greg Anthony, from the long-running radio show, the Investigative Journal, that you can find right now on firstamendmentradio.com, or you can go to arcticbeacon.com and get a lot of my old shows. Well, I'm going to spend a few minutes with you, and the reason is to introduce the flat earth theory to you. I'm sure you've heard about it by now if you go on the internet. About 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there was this unbelievable rush to get to these stories that were appearing about the flat earth. Nobody much talked about it before. And in this short little video, I'm going to comment as a journalist would comment. Now, to give you a little bit of a background, I was a journalist out of college in the mainstream, found out they were big liars. I then went over to the alternative radio and news and found out many of those are controlled outlets. And now I broadcast on a small Christian station that'll accept some of the things that I've researched from the time that I lived for 7 years in Rome and understood what I call now the Vatican-led New World Order. Now, these videos that I'll do many more subjects, but I'm going to just introduce, as a journalist would introduce, a third party, disinterested party would introduce this what I call a phenomenon on the internet over the flat earth theory. A few years ago, you never heard anything about it. Now, years and years ago, I knew NASA was a bunch of big liars as I researched the fake moon landings. And at that point, many even in my family thought I was a bit off my rocker. But the facts showed that it was impossible that NASA went to the moon. And I figured, well, they lie about some things, but some things have to be true. Now, when this story came out, when I started reading about the flat earth theory, my first thought was that I'm not going to live in the dark ages. But you know, sometimes the people back then used their common sense. And so I started to look at it with an open mind and found out that today I believe NASA has lied about everything. Some of the things that I find that NASA has done is just incredible. I mean, the ISS space station, and you go to their 24-hour feed, if you believe those images, it's kind of like watching a Hollywood movie, and maybe that's what it is. And then when you go to Hollywood, by the way, which I'm a part of, I'm also an actor, got into the entertainment business just to have some fun in life. And it seems like that's the only organizations I ever join, those that are really there entrenched to push along the New World Order theory. For example, American journalism. It's just an arm of the New World Order. That's why the more we say we're free, the less free we are, and we have no free newspapers. Take it from me. I worked in the business for a long time. Probably before a lot of you were born. Now then, I decided to do some Hollywood movies in Rome when I was there to make a little bit of money and to enjoy life a bit. And little do you know, years later, most of Hollywood is in their pocket as well. And along the way, I got a law degree. And then I find out the legal profession is nothing but a sham at the highest levels. And I always say the most endangered species is an honest judge. Now, getting back to this flat earth theory, is it crazy? From a journalist's point of view, let's look at it from all aspects. And this is just my introduction video, because in the future, I'm going to present to you all of the things that I'm finding that people are doing. And some of them are incredibly interesting. Some of them are incredibly stupid. Some of them are done by guys who control the opposition, who have, some people say the reason this flat earth theory is out there is because the Jesuit order in the Vatican and the powers that be want it out there. Now, that may be true, but the point I think is this: if they do it like they do with other truth movements, for example, 9/11, For example, Waco, all these other things, the Oklahoma bombing, all these false flags, all these different things that are truth movements to find out the truth about chemtrails, etc., etc. What you find out is that a lot of the information is true, but they have to get in there controlling that information so that the real truth isn't found out. I believe the same thing exists in the flat earth theory. Now, am I going to take a position on whether it is flat or we live on a globe? As a journalist, in the beginning I didn't. And I presented myself and looked at the information as I would any other story. And I've come to the conclusion that we're probably not living on a globe, and we're probably not spinning around like they say, and we probably never went to the moon, and we most likely are, and I say categorically without question, being lied to by NASA. No doubt in my mind. So anything they say, I don't believe. It's not credible. So the fact that the Earth may not be the shape that we're told it is makes a lot of sense to me. And some of the things that you're going to hear in the future regarding what I think are the most important points when you start looking at the flat earth, a lot of it has to do with your common sense. A lot of it has to do with false research done by NASA. Why would they be lying and presenting us with CGI images of the supposed Earth when they're up in space supposedly taking pictures? If it were true, they wouldn't have anything to hide. But I think they have a lot to hide. And the reason I think they have a lot to hide is because if they showed us the truth, they would know that we cannot really go up as high as they say we can. And it all starts there. But they know that most people can never, ever, categorically, without a question, prove it to be so, because they'll never go there. Now, seeing that 99.9% of us will never, ever get to the top of the world, so to speak, if they say it is, or into space, they can probably tell us anything and we'd believe it. Now, for those people out there who have shown great information about the Earth being a flat Earth, a circle Earth, with Antarctica being a big ice wall that surrounds everything, and the North Pole right in the middle, smack dab in the middle, that theory is difficult for those who want to prove it with their eyes, because how many of us are ever going to chance to go that far into the oceans of the world in any direction? But when you look at the facts about the when you look at the sun and the moon's movements, when you look at the seasons, when you look at the stars, when you look at all these things, they cannot exist in my mind when you rationally think about it in a globular Earth. So there's a lot to explore, and as a journalist I looked at it for hundreds of hours and still doing it, and found this for you. You're going to find that there are controlled opposition, or people that work for the New World Order, Vatican-led New World Order, that are out there presenting all these videos and all this stuff. I don't know exactly who they are, but they're there. They're there for a reason. And the question you have to ask is, did this movement get started by them for a reason? And if so, why? Are they reaching a level? You know, they tell us everything in plain sight. You know, all of their monuments, all of their signals and signs, they're told to us. That's why when you look at the, monument in Washington, which is called, the Freedom Monument in Washington, D.C., it's an obelisk that worships Isis, a goddess of Egypt. It worships pagan goddesses, just as the obelisk does in the Vatican and the one in London. So there's a sign that they're showing you, but they're telling you a different story. Now, if the controlled opposition, if they were the people that started this movement, which they very well could be, it doesn't discount the fact that it could be true. But what's true? What are they hiding? Where do they want to lead you? And do they want to lead you away from the truth? So then everybody gets on the bandwagon, and many people out there who are looking to find the truth have to wade through all this information like they do in most every other truth movement. It happened to me when I was trying to get to the truth about 9/11. I didn't realize at that point, a year or two after 9/11, and for a few years I researched that story, that many of the people I talked to were actually working for the other side and leading you in the wrong direction. And I presented story after story showing certain things that will teach you how to get through all that. And my next point to you is, it is human nature to want to immediately argue with these people, whether it be the controlled opposition in 9/11, whether it be the controlled opposition in any truth movement you want, whether, when you start researching the Vatican, you run into so many people that will start saying, no, it's the Jews, no, it's the Vatican who controls the New World Order. And you find that some are relying on information they're getting from wrong sources, and some are relying on basically lack of knowledge. And thirdly, you got to wade through all of the disinformation artists that are out there in that campaign. They exist all over. In the chemtrails, in the microwave weaponry movement, in most every movement, you will find that you have controlled opposition or people actually being paid by the New World Order to lead you in that direction. That's what makes the internet so interesting and fun for me, because it makes it one step. You have to go one step above what you actually see, hear, and read. And you have to rely, one, on your instincts, one, on your free thinking, and one, on this one very important principle. Get everything out and then make up your own mind. Be a free thinking person. There aren't many left. And this idea of a flat or globe earth is a very important thing, because they're telling you probably now what the world is really like, but you're not going to believe it, or you're going to believe the people that tell you some of the wrong information where they want you to go to believe it, in sense, so that you'll never get to the truth. Wow. It's a lot to swallow, right? But we're going to piece through it on the Investigative Journal YouTube channel. And you'll catch a lot of that on my radio shows too, which I've done a number of them now. But let's look at it from a perspective as a journalist looking at the story from the outside looking in. Take away all your beliefs. Take away everything you learned when you were a child. Take away it all. Even take it away today, whatever you may believe about the flat earth or the round, and start looking at it objectively. And what I mean by that is, look at all the information. And my key to you is, what I found, and I learned this the hard way, it's human nature, like I said, to start wanting to argue with people that you know have to be working on the other side, but you can't prove it. They have a lot more money than you, a lot more listeners. People are not very savvy to this, especially in the United States, a very gullible population. I find people in Europe a little bit more receptive, and I lived there a long time. I don't know why. I don't think they've been brainwashed as badly as us. They don't have the opportunity to be because of the economic situations, I think. But anyway, the one failure I made was that I really fell into their trap. I wanted to, that guy has to. Now I say to you this, the best way to do it is don't care. For example, Alex Jones. What's the difference whether he is a shill or not? The point is, you're going to know some of the bogus information he gives out, and you're going to hear some of the information that you know is true that's going to help you figure the truth out. But don't fall into this trap of believing everything he says. And whether he works for them or not, hey, it's a free country, right? He wants to work for the New World Order Vatican, go right ahead. But a good example, don't listen to some of the things he's saying about the Vatican now, because he's leading you down the wrong step. Years ago, when I first started talking about it, he called me crazy. I used to have a show right after his. Crazy to talk about the Vatican. This guy's lunatic. Then they started spreading all these different kind of rumors that weren't true, and I said, hey, I am on the right direction here. But guess what? Most of the people would believe him because he's got a bigger listenership, and they knew it. My point is, everything has to be on the table, and you're not going to get it all unless, in fact, there's even people that talk about the Jesuits and say they're anti-Jesuits that aren't. You got to figure those guys out too. And You know, instead of me calling out names and doing all that kind of stuff, which I would have probably done in the past, I've learned it really doesn't make a bit of difference. But what makes the difference is you getting the proper information and understanding that they're out there, they're never going to leave, and you're going to have to deal with it. Now, in the Flat Earth movement, it's no different. I believe that you have to look at it from many aspects. First, let's look at it from the controlled opposition, bringing it to the forefront, and then everybody catching on. Most of the people are going to head off into the direction where they get, the biggest guys, the guys who put out the most videos, the guys who do all this stuff. And perhaps what they're saying is peppered with a lot of things that aren't true. I don't think that a controlled opposition guy would, and the Jesuits and all these guys that know the real truth about the shape of this earth and what lies on the other side of those ice walls that surround us and what's really above us and how high we really can go. I don't think they want you to know the exact truth. I think they prefer you to follow a little bit of the truth and then go the wrong way. And secondly, have many people call you crazy. And so in the end, they've told you, but not everything. And that's really how they operate. So we're going to we're going to remember all that. And we're going to try to figure out what, in these Flat Earth videos that I'm going to do in the future, what is the most logical shape of this earth and what is the information that leads us to believe that? And where can we go, or how can we go to get to the truth beyond what they are hiding from us, because that Antarctica Treaty is set up to keep us out of something, keep us away from finding something. So if we can get past that Antarctic Treaty and all of their military presence around the globe, or see what I mean? That's what I'm talking about, brainwashing. You will say it even though you know it isn't, or have good belief that it isn't, because you've heard it so much. But if we could get past that wall, what exactly would we find? And why can't we? Because they have all the money and they waste it. Well, they don't in a sense. They use it for NASA to keep us looking above and thinking about fake aliens and all that stuff, while really what lies here is right at the edge of the earth. And can we ever get there? I think we could do it. And I'm going to propose some ways to do it and how financially we could get together and do it. But anyway, that's for another show. Listen, thanks for listening. We'll be back again on the Investigative Journal YouTube channel. These YouTubes will be designated The Flat Earth Theory, a journalist perspective. And we'll be back again. So I hope you enjoyed this introduction. Pass it on to your friends. Tell them to go listen to my website. And of course, we will talk again.